In a busy warehouse, a worker pushing a manual pallet jack enters an aisle. From the opposite direction, a forklift operator turns the corner, their attention focused elsewhere. The operator fails to see the pedestrian directly in their path and collides with them, knocking the person to the floor. This incident underscores the danger of blind corners. Convex mirrors, audible alarms on vehicles, and strictly enforced pedestrian walkways are vital for preventing such collisions. At a building facade, two men are working on a multi-level rolling scaffold. One worker is positioned on the top platform, attending to his tasks, while his partner is on the ground below. The worker at the base decides to reposition the scaffold. Instead of ensuring his colleague descends first, he begins to push the entire tall structure along the uneven sidewalk. The scaffold immediately becomes unstable, rocking back and forth precariously. He continues to push until the structure's center of gravity shifts too far, causing it to topple over completely. It crashes down with immense force, throwing the worker from the top platform onto the hard pavement below. This incident is a catastrophic failure of fundamental safety rules. Scaffolding must always be erected on solid, level ground and must never, under any circumstances, be moved while workers are on it. This dangerous shortcut resulted in a severe and easily avoidable accident. Inside a fenced-off automated work cell, a worker stands dangerously close to an active robotic arm. The large robot, programmed to move components, makes a sudden, swift movement toward the man. It mistakes the worker for a part, grabbing him by the head and violently slamming him into a stack of materials. This is precisely why safety cages and light curtains exist. No worker should ever enter the operational envelope of a robot without engaging full lockout-tagout procedures. In a nighttime loading bay, a truck driver stands near the back of his trailer as a forklift approaches with a pallet. The forklift operator, seemingly unaware of the driver's presence, drives forward without slowing down. The operator pins the driver between the powerful machine and the trailer, crushing him instantly. This devastating incident highlights the absolute need for clear communication and situational awareness. Forklift operators must always establish eye contact with pedestrians in their vicinity, and ground personnel should never place themselves in a potential crush zone. A mechanic crouches directly over a large truck tire while inflating it. Without any warning, the tire's structural integrity fails, resulting in a massive explosion. The sheer force of the blast launches the mechanic violently into the air. When inflating high-pressure tires, always use a safety inflation cage and a clip-on chuck with a long hose to maintain a safe distance. At a busy port, workers are loading a flatbed truck near the water's edge. A forklift operator, after placing a load, suddenly accelerates forward at high speed instead of reversing. The machine plunges off the pier, landing directly on a worker standing below and pushing him into the water. This appears to be a tragic case of pedal misapplication. In complex environments, operators must remain hyper-vigilant. Maintaining clear safety zones for pedestrians is essential to provide an escape route in case of operator error. In a factory setting, a worker operates a large rolling press. He reaches over the active machine, likely to clear a jam or adjust the material being fed into it. His arm gets caught in the powerful intake rollers, and in a horrific instant, he is pulled completely into the machine. This demonstrates the absolute necessity of proper machine guarding. All moving parts and pinch points must be covered. For any adjustments or maintenance, a complete lockout-tagout procedure must be performed to de-energize the equipment. In a mining tunnel, a worker pushes a heavy cart toward an elevator shaft. He opens the protective gate and, without verifying that the elevator car is actually there, pushes the cart into the void. He and the cart plummet down the open shaft. Safety interlocks that prevent gates from opening unless the elevator is present are critical. This tragic assumption highlights the rule to always look and confirm before you proceed. A person walks down a narrow alleyway between warehouse buildings. Behind them, a forklift carrying a load that obstructs the operator's forward view is traveling in the same direction. The operator, unable to see the pedestrian, continues forward and runs the person over. This is a primary rule of forklift safety. If your forward view is blocked by a load, you must travel in reverse. Using a horn at intersections and having designated pedestrian paths are also crucial measures to prevent this type of accident. At a lumber yard, a forklift operator attempts to lift a tall, heavy, and unstable stack of wooden panels. As the forks rise, the machine's center of gravity shifts forward, causing it to become dangerously unbalanced. The entire forklift tips forward, sending the massive load crashing down onto a nearby worker who is instantly pinned beneath the immense weight. This fatal error was caused by exceeding the forklift's rated load capacity. Operators must be trained to read and understand their vehicle's load chart and never attempt to lift a load that is too heavy or unstable. In a scrap metal recycling plant, a worker climbs into a massive baling press to clear a jam, placing himself in an extremely dangerous position. While he is inside, an excavator operator working nearby drops a load of scrap, startling the man. As he tries to get out, the press unexpectedly begins its compression cycle. The powerful hydraulic ram activates, trapping and crushing the man inside the machine before he can escape. This is a horrifying failure of lockout, tag-out procedures. Before any worker enters a machine for maintenance, all energy sources must be completely shut off and locked to prevent accidental activation. This procedure would have saved his life. In a cramped warehouse aisle, two employees stand talking, oblivious to the high-reach forklift operating behind them. The operator lifts a pallet high into the racking, but the load is unbalanced. The entire pallet of goods slides off the forks and falls onto the workers below. Pedestrians must always be aware of their surroundings and never stand under a suspended load. Inside an automated factory, a worker leans over a conveyor, putting himself in the path of a robotic arm. The machine activates unexpectedly, striking the man. As colleagues rush to help, a second robot further down the line malfunctions, swinging its arm and hitting another worker. This chain reaction points to a systemic failure of the safety systems. Proper light curtains, pressure mats, or sensors should automatically shut down all robots in a zone the moment a human enters. At a gas station, an attendant is crouched down, cleaning a spill. The driver of a white SUV, who had just been refueling, gets into their vehicle and pulls away, without checking their blind spots. The car turns directly into the low-profile attendant, knocking him over and dragging him several feet before stopping. This shows the critical importance of situational awareness for both drivers and workers. Drivers must be vigilant in pedestrian-heavy areas, while ground workers should use cones to create a visible safety barrier around their immediate workspace. At a recycling facility, a man is using a long pole to push material into a large industrial shredder. He is leaning far over the machine's opening in a precarious position. Another worker approaches from behind and throws more material into the shredder's hopper. This sudden influx causes the machine to violently grab the first worker's pole, pulling him in after it. This horrific accident was caused by a complete lack of machine guarding and poor communication between workers. At a factory, a man walks through an open area below a mezzanine. Without warning, a massive, heavy roll of fabric falls from the level above, landing directly on top of him. This incident highlights the absolute importance of securing all materials stored at height using tow boards, netting, or other barriers to prevent objects from falling. In a warehouse, a forklift operator places a crate on a truck. He then gets off the forklift, leaving it running with the forks raised and, most importantly, without setting the parking brake. As he walks in front of the machine to adjust the load, the forklift begins to roll forward on the slight incline. He is trapped and crushed between the multi-ton vehicle and the truck. This fatal accident was caused by ignoring the most fundamental rule of forklift safety. Before dismounting, always lower the forks, set the parking brake, and put the machine in neutral.